And that's the feeling I'm getting. I'm getting that the government knows what's coming as far as other beings letting us know their presence, that they're going to try to throw us off by throwing all these drones up in the air, getting us to watch the drones instead of looking beyond the drones. So that's what Spirit's saying. Look beyond the drones, beyond that. This thing's definitely here to assist, and it's probing the whole entire, each planet with these little probes, and they're tiny tiny drones, like little tiny things. They look more like bugs that are flying out in swarms. Going down to Mars, I see them probing around Mars, mainly the atmosphere. I see big sightings over the United Kingdom. I see big sightings really everywhere, even over Israel and the Middle East, which will bring concerns, and they'll think it's, an act of conflict. I even see major activity over Moscow, seeing where the energy, the environment, and the atmosphere stands at this point in time in our galaxy. That's what it's doing. And I just see the word spelled out, major outages, which takes us back to November. November is definitely Mercury retrograde. Communications will be affected. There's going to be major outages, especially outages related to travel. Say all of a sudden the airlines lose their systems and their systems go out. Security or even law enforcement guarding some of the grocery stores in the front and a line of people, and they're only letting so. It almost reminds me of 2020 lockdown, where they only let so many people in the store at once. And then I'm asking, will there ever be like peace over there? And all I see is first I saw the cities and things burning and the people that blocked roads and cut off grocery and so forth in Ireland. But when I ask, will there ever be peace there? All I see is the remnants of what's burned, the ashes, and a little bit of smoke rising up. I would take this as rising up out of the ashes. Now, Spirit keeps showing me Times Square in New York, like the whole New Year's Eve Times Square in New York, and I just see a visual of that and the apple at the top. So I would take that more as something maybe symbolic. But this volcano is so big, erupts so much that it gets dark in areas nearby. Welcome back to the Love Shack, beautiful souls. I hope you're all having a great day. I'm burning a little sage here, and today we are going to peer into the black mirror. The black scrying mirror. This particular black mirror is very old. I've had this for a very long time. I don't even think you can find them like this anymore. I mean, if you can, let me know. I buy extras just in case. But you can hear solid black obsidian. First time I did this, and I've been doing this a few times now. Someone's like, he's looking at an iPad. Nope, that's not an iPad. That's a plain old piece of black obsidian that's shiny and bright. And a little sage here to clear everything. Probably make my Love Shack a little smoky. If you're new here, my name is Joseph Tittel, a.k.a. Spiritman JT, and I'll welcome you with infinite love and gratitude. Also, if you're new here and you want accurate predictions, prophecy, and truth, and you want to vibe with this tribe, be sure to smash the subscribe, the bell, and all, so that you get notifications. I'll put this down on the floor. So if you see things floating around, it's just the smoke from the sage, friends. Just the smoke from the sage. Down below in the description, you'll find all the links to my social media, including the Subscribe Star Awaken Your Spirit community of supporters who help make this free content possible for everybody else. On YouTube, you can sign up down below where it says join as a monthly supporter. And then those that send in contributions and help support this work, I appreciate you so much with infinite love and gratitude. Be sure to hit that thumbs up, love, like button too. So the black mirror in scrying goes all the way back to ancient times. We could probably track it all the way back to ancient Egypt, maybe even ancient Sumeria. It wouldn't surprise me. I got to shine it up. It's got some spots on it. Nostradamus was said to used that as part of the method of his prophecies and the quatrains in which he wrote and left behind for all of us. He used a bowl, a black bowl, likely made out of black obsidian, filled with water. And these are the different methods of scrying. Scrying is the method of gazing into a black surface to receive images, visions, and intuitive thoughts. Very powerful. A lot of fun, too. A lot of fun. We've done this before. So we're going to gaze into this, and I'm going to answer some questions from the chat down below, in not the chat, but from the comments. So let us get started. First thing that I'm asking the spirits to clue me in on is SI-Atlas. If you hear those motorcycles, I have the window open. My apologies. You know, it is a tourist town, Sedona, Arizona, and it does echo through the canyon if you haven't noticed. It just threw me off. Let me start. So we're gazing deep at SI-Atlas. As I told you in the past, is definitely a spaceship. And what I see, Spirit does show me it going by. We're heading towards the sun, which we know. It's heading towards the sun. I believe that's going to happen right around the 29th or 30th of October, and then it's going to disappear for a little while. Spirit says don't count on it disappearing as long as they're telling you it's going to disappear. And then I see as it's getting closer to the sun, it almost looks like a mirror, like the Black Mirror. Like a mirror, like a regular mirror, actually, reflecting light. And it's as if I'm standing on the earth and I see this light reflect. And it does like 3 to 5 really strong reflections that are aimed and pointed directly towards the earth. This would make sense likely to what I said in the past, that this is going to unleash specific light codes being basically programs that go into our subconsciousness and our brain, like programming a computer, awakening us to new levels. And that's likely what these flashes of light that I keep seeing are. And perhaps that's what we're going to see on the 29th and 30th of October, is these flashes of light coming from the side of the sun, because that's the way it appears to me. This is definitely a controlled, higher intelligence, we could say, vehicle of some sort. I don't necessarily feel that there's necessarily anyone in it. Oh, there is someone in it, says the spirits. Okay, there is someone in it. Lots of someones. And lots of little probes. That's why they don't want to show us Mars and the footage from Mars. The high definition footage, that is. They sent out the pixelated garbage, but they didn't send out the real high footage. They're not going to. Because in that high footage, we would be able to see this SI-Atlas sending out 3I-Atlas, 3I-Atlas, whatever you want to call it, sending out little probes. What are they probing? They're probing the atmosphere of all the planets in which they're going around. They've done this before, says Spirit, thousands of years ago. So this thing's appeared before, but thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. I see talk online where people are trying to say it's the Blue Star Kachina and the Hopi prophecy, and that's just incorrect. I don't believe that's the case at all. Now, the Blue Star Kachina is also known as the Great Destroyer by the Hopi natives, the destroyer of the old and the bringing in of the new. And I believe that's going to happen in 2029 to 2032. But this thing's definitely here to assist, and it's probing the whole entire, each planet with these little probes, and they're tiny little tiny drones, like little tiny things. They look more like bugs that are flying out in swarms. Going down to Mars, I see them probing around Mars, mainly the atmosphere. But I also see them going all around, like through outer space, like around the planet Mars. And then I see this happening at each planet that it passes. It's even doing this to the moon, sending out probes as it gets close by and passes. It will do the same thing to the Earth. And likely we might catch some of this in footage. Of course, they'll try to block it out, but we'll have masters here on Earth with telescopes that'll get their own good footage to put out. But you see it doing that to Earth too, sending out probes. What are these probes? What are these little drone things that look like bugs? Seeing where the energy, the environment, and the atmosphere stands at this point in time in our galaxy. That's what it's doing. In turn, it can, sort of like artificial intelligence, determine what exactly we need to help this galaxy, this solar system that we're in. More importantly, to help the planet. There's no danger in these beings. They're there to help. They're there to assist. It's not a rock. And if you've seen any of the pictures lately, here's a couple pictures I'll put up on the screen that it's not a rock. Rocks aren't shaped like that. It's not a comet. It is a higher intelligence spaceship, I guess we could say. And I do see it going around the sun and coming around. Which is how the Hopis say that planet Nibiru, or the red star Kachina, is going to do. But I still feel that's far off. And I've done full videos on the Hopi prophecy in the red star, blue star Kachina, the great destroyer. Be sure to check that out. What else can you show us about this thing, Spirit? Comes from very, very far away. It's traveling at speeds much higher than we even realize. And it is way bigger than what they're telling us it is. So if they're telling us, say, it's the size of Manhattan, it's more likely closer to the size of New York or half the size of New York. It's huge. It's gigantic. Like a scientific science lab and city on wheels. Or not even on wheels. There's no wheels. But with wings, we could say. It also makes me feel like they're plucking some of the things with these probes. Like, for example, plucking some of the bacteria, plucking some of the animals when they get to the Earth, like taking a few little animals off, plucking them off for testing. To see again where we stand and the dangers that are before us with the environments. So again, they're very much here to help. A lot of people say they're draconian. I'm getting no higher consciousness, higher vibration than even the draconians. Interesting. This is going to ignite even more activity. So November is going to be a really active month when it comes to things in outer space. And I'm seeing like what appears to be 1, 2, 3, like 5 different moving objects through space that are all got little question marks next to them. I would imagine that 3I-Atlas is one of them. And then there's 4 others, kind of like comets. The question mark would be that there's a lot of questions around it, obviously. And it's not something that we're used to or know that we're going to see in our solar system. I ask, are these spaceships or probes as well? No, some are actually comets and the signs that are appearing in the heavens. But 2 are definitely space related. Now, there's speculation that some people say it's the Project Blue Beam and it's not real, and it is real. This 3I-Atlas is very, very real. But as far as that whole Blue Beam thing, Spirit keeps showing me the date 2027. The year 2027. Right around February 2027. between February and March 2027. That's when we can be fooled by our eyes of what we're seeing or think we're seeing in the skies. So we got over a year before that happens. We don't need, what's that, about 16 months away? So we won't. But the Spirit's showing me that. Feels like a pivotal time, 2027, with spacecraft and again being manipulated by thinking we see things that aren't really there. And then Spirit shows me the Twin Towers in New York. I think relaying that, thinking we're seeing something that we're really not seeing. If you watch some of the footage around that event and those alleged airplanes, it's exactly what Spirit says. Exactly. Manipulation. And that was how many years ago? 14, 15 years ago? Or no, longer than that. Excuse me. Way longer than that. 24 years ago. Imagine how much the technology has gotten better since. Interesting. So I do see, and I've seen this in the past, but I'm seeing it visually, lots of major activity in the sky, some which will be told are drones, and they'll cover that up. There's still all those drones flying over Pennsylvania, New Jersey, big time right now. It's going to escalate. It's going to spread all over. I see big sightings over the United Kingdom. I see big sightings really everywhere, even over Israel and the Middle East, which will bring concerns, and they'll think it's, an act of conflict. I even see major activity over Moscow. And this is more what we can say is we could say alien, but I wouldn't necessarily say some of it's government. And that's the feeling I'm getting. I'm getting that the government knows what's coming as far as other beings letting us know their presence, that they're going to try to throw us off by throwing all these drones up in the air, getting us to watch the drones instead of looking beyond the drones. So that's what Spirit's saying. Look beyond the drones, beyond that. And Spirit says, do a little meditation before you go outside and do some observing to help you see past the drones and to see the more interdimensional vehicles that are already been flying around. But November is a major, major time for all this to happen. And I believe that this 3I-Atlas and the big flares of light that I see, these big flashes of light coming from the sun, which is really coming from 3I-Atlas, that's there to ascend us, to shift our consciousness, would likely make most of us, and again, remember, some people just can't be penetrated. Some people you just can't, it's not going to do much. It's not part of their soul contract. But for those of us that it is, and that it does benefit, will allow us, again, to see these interdimensional things that we weren't able to see before. November is very special. And in Spirit, I see real big the number 11, which this year, November is an 11 month. When we do numerology, we always add the year we're in, which is a 9-year in numerology, to the month. So 9 plus 1 plus 1, 9, 11, interesting enough, adds up to an 11. 11 and 22 and 33 are master numbers. So whenever you add the numbers and it comes to one of those, 11, 22, 33, you always look at that first. Because technically, overall, November is going to be a 2-month because 1 plus 1 is 2. But it's the 11, and that only happens once every 9 years. So that 11 is all about spiritual ascension. It's all about the angelic energies and angelic frequencies, and even more so this year than ever because it's the 9/11. 9/11. It's like the emergency upgrade that humanity needs. The 11 also can represent, again, angels, angelic energies, people's ability to see and connect with angels on a more easier level, which even includes your own guardian angels and guides. So November is a very awesome month. Might not feel it because it's going to be intense with the retrogrades, and that's where Spirit takes me next, to the cities. Still got a little bit of a cold here, and let me get a little bit of my favorite tea here, which I'm running out of coca tea. I have to go back to Peru and get some more. It's fabulous. Going back to the sightings over the skies, Chicago keeps coming to me strongly, and Chicago's come to me strongly in the past. I have visions, predictions around Chicago that we're still waiting to see come into fruition, and hopefully some of them don't. But I'm still talking about the sky and sky events. There's something happening over Chicago, something big happening over Paris, and even over Rome and the Vatican. A big sighting over Rome, Vatican. And I believe all this is coming November and even into December, but especially November. It's that 11 vibration that we're going to be in. Not only that, we have all these transits in place, and Mercury's going to go retrograde on the 9th. It's going to be really, really intense. Which takes me to the civil unrest that I see. Major civil unrest. This feels similar to something in the past, but Paris, I see Paris and I see fires, lots of fires in Paris. Almost like part of the Paris is burning down. And I believe this would be connected, somehow to civil unrest. The waking up of the people is going to cause a lot of unrest and uneasiness, even here in the United States, especially here in the United States. We have this whole thing happening where they want to take away SNAP benefits, which 1 in 8 Americans depends on, and 1 out of every 4 kids depends on. And I see that. I see problems with, I see grocery stores as if it's, Black Friday isn't like it used to be now with the internet and all. Back when I was younger, Black Friday, I was one of them people lined up all night long waiting to get into the stores on Black Friday. I see grocery stores like that. It's really weird. And I even see in some places there's security or even law enforcement guarding some of the grocery stores in the front and a line of people, and they're only letting so. It almost reminds me of 2020 lockdown, where they only let so many people in the store at once. So I would think this is happening in big cities here in the United States, but I see issues with this happening around Europe and United Kingdom. Ireland. I see so much fire in Ireland. And then I feel like I need to warn our friends in Ireland that be aware of famine, because that'll be the next thing they're going to do is try to starve us out. How long have I been telling you to stock up on food and to stock up on survival foods the best you can? Go get a 50-pound bag of rice at your big, club store or whatever you can do. 1 can of food a week extra. Important. But when I'm looking at Ireland, I see great fire and I just see people rubbing their bellies that they're hungry. And this is the rebellion. This is the Irish people. Reminds me of the Great Famine in Ireland where they starved out the Irish before. They being, wasn't that the kings or whatever in Europe? I did a video on that a long time ago. So friends in Ireland, stock up on food. It's going to be a long winter. I even see like blockages. They're blocking off roads, blocking off villages in Ireland. And then I hear this runs into Dublin. So I don't know I guess this isn't happening in Dublin at the moment. So it's running into Dublin. And then I'm asking, will there ever be like peace over there? And all I see is first I saw the cities and things burning and the people that blocked roads and cut off grocery and so forth in Ireland. But when I ask, will there ever be peace there, all I see is the remnants of what's burned, the ashes, and a little bit of smoke rising up. I would take this as rising up out of the ashes. Suddenly, I'm totally shifted to this massive volcanic eruption. I mean, this is huge. This volcano is gigantic. It's not an awakening sleeping giant. because I predicted that we would see sleeping giants awaken again. We saw that with the one in Russia months ago. We see that happening in Iran right now with one that's awakening after 700,000 years. This is a big volcano. Kind of reminds me of, not Mount Spur, maybe one in Alaska. It's along the Ring of Fire. But this volcano is so big, erupts so much that it gets dark in areas nearby. So this actually could be closer between, say, the Philippines, Indonesia, that area of the globe. And then I also see around the same time or right after, there's a big one that erupts in Japan. Japan's going to get very rocky, very shaky come November. And then I see spelled out November earthquake warnings across the globe. So extremely heightened earthquake activity in November and even running into December. I see something big happening with an earthquake right around Christmas, like say between the 23rd and the 25th, like right in that window of time. That looks like it could be over more towards the Middle East, perhaps even in Turkey. I even see, again, something happening around Israel, probably perhaps the same earthquake, but I see a crack in the wall, the sacred wall, like a crack from the shaking. And then I'm also along the edge of Southern California and even closer towards Mexico and the Baja Peninsula there. And it feels very shaky. I see a bridge swaying back and forth. Not sure if this is November, December, but I'm really trying to stay focused on that period of time. And according to Spirit, that's when things are going to heighten to crazy levels. Even in parts of Canada, expect there to be big shakings. In unusual places, like, say, outside or near Toronto. I don't know if that's unusual, but it feels unusual. Then I see, like, right near Washington. Oh, what's that little island? Always I'm drawing a blank. There's a lot of activity there before. I see a lot of activity right there above the state of Washington and right off the coast of Canada. West Coast, obviously. And then going back to this massive volcanic eruption, it looks like it's causing fires. I literally see people running in the streets and ash just going everywhere. This does look like it's probably somewhere near where I said before, Philippines, Indonesia. But this is massive. Like, it literally darkens out part of the sun in some areas where this is erupting. And I feel that there's concern about the gases that are coming out of it and where they're settling, that this could cause major issues for people's respiratory systems. I feel like it's blowing. It might even be blowing towards maybe Europe. But I'm getting, like, stay indoors, close the windows, wait until it passes, don't breathe it in. The breath is toxic. It's almost like some kind of toxic gas. Now I'm seeing, going back, I guess, to the civil unrest. Remember how they were lighting the Tesla vehicles on fire? I see this happening with trucks. Some type of either an attack on a trucking company or maybe some other incident where there's an explosion at a trucking company and I see all the trucks parked in a big parking lot. One on fire, then another. A couple boom booms from the explosions, probably from the gas. It feels nefarious to me. Not sure where this is. Now again, Chicago comes to mind, and I'm not sure if this is where the trucking incident's taking place with trucks catching fire or being lit afire. But something's coming in Chicago, regardless. think that could be one of the big centers, besides we see what's happening in Portland, Oregon, and other places. But I think something big's coming in Chicago. Definitely heading towards this modern day civil, I don't like to say civil war, I like to say civil unrest more than anything. It's like this weird modern day one, whatever that we can take from that. I see some type of an attack, and this is odd, sudden attacks on abortion clinics. I'm seeing several churches being lit on fire. It feels like here in the United States, but also back to Paris. And then I see attacks on, I would imagine, our mosques over there in Europe, United Kingdom, Ireland, and again, fire. I think a lot of this is going to heighten in the month of November and moving towards the end of the year. Now, Spirit keeps showing me Times Square in New York, like the whole New Year's Eve Times Square in New York, and I just see a visual of that and the apple at the top. So I would take that more as something maybe symbolic, taking us to New Year's Eve and perhaps something going on right around New Year's Eve around the Big Apple. And I see the people gathered, and I see the whole scene. It's all Spirit shows me, so there's got to be something very symbolic that's going on there. Or maybe not going on there. Perhaps less of a crowd. Maybe canceling it in some aspect. Or only allowing a certain amount of people to come into the city. I see this van. It's like a van. It's not a newer van. It looks like an older van. And in the back, there's these big blue containers. Kind of like those big water containers or even oil containers, but they're blue. And there's a series of them lined up in the back of this truck, at least 4, maybe 6. There's 3 men in this truck, in this van. All speak like definitely Middle Eastern. And I see wires that are hooked up to these big barrels. Spirit shows me a skull and crossbones, meaning whatever's in those barrels is toxic. I don't know where they're driving this, or if they're driving this into New York. Looks like a white van, or like a beige colored. We can hold in the light that they get busted, pulled over. And this could even be in Chicago, I really don't know. But we were just talking about New York and New York City. Remember the whole Chinese spy balloon thing? I see something going on with balloons with question marks on them. So could it be another Chinese spy balloon thing or another diversion to take our attention away? It's weird. It just came out of nowhere. I see a series of at least 3, 4 of them. I suddenly see this plane. It looks like the plane's trying to land or trying to make an emergency land. But as it's going through the air, it's like going sideways, like it's coming down sideways. It's very strange. Almost like it's trying to go in between buildings or go in between something to avoid it. And it does take a nosedive, and I do see a large, explosion that happens. This looks like a bigger plane. I'm not sure where this is. This could actually be somewhere over near Asia. Kind of reminds me of the one that we had, was that earlier this year in India? Remember that one that crashed into the building or whatever? Kind of reminds me of that. But I think that plane was taking off, if I remember correctly. This plane is like trying to land, but it's like going sideways. It's very strange. Almost like someone else is trying to steer it. And the pilot's trying to get it to go straight, and someone's trying to steer it sideways. Cyber attack, perhaps? Speaking of cyber attacks and power grids, I don't know if it's a cyber attack, but I do see multiple attacks happening on power grids or power stations. One is somebody driving a vehicle right into the power station. And then I see them shooting at the transformers, trying to get them to shatter. This feels very connected to Antifa. Very connected to Antifa. So again, maybe here in the United States. And I just see the words spelled out, major outages, which takes us back to November. November is definitely Mercury retrograde. Communications will be affected. There's going to be major outages, especially outages related to travel. Say all of a sudden the airlines lose their systems and their systems go out. We just saw the big outage with the Amazon servers. That will happen again, says Spirit, and it'll be bigger the next time. I don't know how, but it'll be bigger, or maybe last longer. Prepare for outages no matter where you live, and prepare for some of them to last multiple days. And this don't feel weather related either. This feels Nefarious related. I don't know why the date November 19th shows up. I see clearly November 19th, and I see it circled on a calendar. I don't know if this is due to outages or maybe connected to that. Not sure, but the date November 19th. I see something bubbling under the ocean. I have deja vu, so that means I likely saw this vision before, similar. But I feel something really brewing under the ocean. And this is November. This is coming up. I would say this is a underwater volcano that's about to burst. And it's not so much the volcano bursting. Yeah, that's definitely something's shooting out of the water. But it's what happens after, I feel, where there's cracks beneath the sea. So earthquakes that'll unleash waves in different directions. Not sure where I'm at, but if I were to make an intuitive guess, I'd say close to Japan. I think in my questions I'm going to go to in a moment, someone asked about tsunami in the Philippines, and I'd be more concerned with Thailand for some reason. But that whole area, and some will be small depending on what country. Like the ones that hit Thailand may be much smaller than the ones that hit the Philippines. It may sound like a broken record saying that these tsunamis are coming, but they are coming, friends. They are coming. We can't always put a date on things. But November is extremely significant for this, for extremely heightened earthquake activity, tsunami activity, sudden floods. But also in the northern parts, the sudden drop of temperatures in these major storms. And I see the storm that comes to the northern parts. That even includes the United States up into Canada. It looks literally like a hurricane that's, I guess we would say, a blizzard. And it seems early. It seems like this messes up travels. Perhaps even travels related to Thanksgiving, of course. I got family coming here, and that's it's too late now, but it doesn't look like it's the best time to travel. And we're in that direct retrograde until the 29th of November. Then the post shadow until December 17th. So, I forget what the date. Thanksgiving's late this year, isn't it? I think it's like the 28th maybe. So you might luck out. But I see, I see ridiculously packed airports. I see people sleeping on the floors due to cancellations. I'm not sure where. Spirits is across the globe. Europe, United States, Canada. Big problems with the airlines and travel in November and even into December. Throughout the rest of the year, really. I believe November would be the worst of it. I see even one airport that loses power. I see the lights go out, and the little emergency lights go on. And it looks like it's kind of dusk. It's not quite dark out when this happens. But it leads to dark because it's still this outage at this airport for a while. And then I'm at the airport, and I'm like working at the airport, right? Behind the counter on the computer. And my computer does all of this weird stuff, like gets all weird and pixelated and then goes out completely. I would take the weird pixelation and the weirdness that happens before seeing this go out and this computer go out means that there was some type of cyber attack in the systems of the airports. So, I'd still say travel, have a good time. Always just prepare for delays, especially when we're in a Mercury retrograde. And just always know in your heart that you're going to have a good trip. Good, safe trip. Always know that. Remember, you're in charge of your future. If you go into fear and freak out and worry about it, you're going to create something. Or you're going to not necessarily create it, but you're going to create a situation where you're there when it happens. What else can you show me, Spirit? Going back to balloons. This actually looks like a hot air balloon. A hot air balloon show. I see some type of terrible incident, an accident that happens around hot air balloons at a hot air balloon show. Not sure where this is, but there's a bunch of them. It looks like one blows up and hits the other one. And it looks like it affects 3 balloons. That was random and interesting. That's what I like about the Black Mirror. It's just random things that show up. Especially I used to read clients with the crystal ball way back in the day. I don't really need to do that now. And it's just some of the things, it's just so random, the things that pop up. That's what I love doing. That's why I like the Black Mirror prophecies, predictions. I hope you're enjoying it too. And if you are, please do be sure to hit that thumbs up, I love button. Let's put this aside for a moment. Pull my computer over here and answer a few questions. I might need that Black Mirror again, perhaps, to answer some of these questions, if need be. All right, well, we answered the one about the Philippines. Let's look at the mirror again, because someone's asking what will happen with the rift in the African continent. If you're not familiar with that, that was even in my past predictions going back many years ago where I saw this big rift and this big splitting apart of the continent of Africa. And you're asking what's happening with that rift. Instantly, I feel it's quiet for now. It's quiet for now. Other parts of the globe are to be affected first. And then it will ripple back over to the crack that already began through Africa. Big crack. I'm more focused on maybe late 2026 into 2027. 2027 seems real significant for big cracks in the earth, the rift. And then going down the line, Spirit does show me that being eventually, and this could be 10 or 20 years from now, but split in half completely, where eventually we make it 2 different continents. And they might even call it, say, the North African continent and the South African continent. Because it does fill up with water, and water definitely separates them, and that is salt water in the middle. We might even see that by 2032. Lots of things are going to change when it comes to the makeup of the geography of the planet. Even parts of Antarctica will chip away. Just little parts, but little islands will chip away. Next question. Do you think the U.S. will use war with Venezuela as an excuse to take the Panama Canal? I don't need the Black Mirror for that, but what I will tell you is that they're using the whole, cartel thing as an excuse, even though I did predict cartel wars years ago, actually, 3-4 years ago. And again, it doesn't mean there really are. What I was seeing is probably the narrative of what we're being fed, and that's what we're being fed right now. I feel like one of those boats that were blown up were innocent people, Spirit says. One of the boats was definitely drug carriers, but one of them was actually innocent people. And that whole war with Venezuela is to change the regime, change the leadership, and it's all about the oil and the money. Right? Let's just gaze in the mirror and see if I get any more validation on that. Yeah, it's definitely about breaking ground for oil. Has nothing to do with the cartels. They won't use that as a way, Venezuela for the Panama Canal, but there could be something that comes up around Colombia that leads towards the Panama Canal. And Spirit makes me feel like they kind of already are taking the Panama Canal. Without force, obviously. How do you feel about the future of Germany? The youth of the left party has a sign aimed to shoot with the head of Alice Weidel from the AFD. I don't even know who that is. They made a new law about your living space. When too big, you pay more taxes. And they want to put immigrants into our house. Oh, yeah, I heard about that. That's the globalists. That's the WEF that really is pushing that, and the United Nations. You should not be allowed to have a spare room or a guest room in your house. That's crazy. And yeah, they are going to push that. They are going to push that. I see a lot of, your message is really long. I'm not going to read all that. Let's look deeper into Germany. It almost feels like a rise up like what happened before World War II, which is a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling. So I would say maybe a new leader that comes in that's kind of like that. Like maybe not necessarily like Adolf, but brings in some of the same stuff. Or I do see a splitting apart of part of Germany. I see that in a lot of countries, United States, China. I talked about the unions and different unions that will form in the United States. I see a breaking apart of Germany. Almost like they took the wall down, almost like we want to put a new wall up. We want our own separate space, which could possibly be something better for the future if they're not going to get along. I do feel that the ascension process that's happening will help, but it's still a fight. There's a lot of darkness there in Germany, a lot of countries, but just saying. Spirit shows me a lot of evil. It's like the devil tramps around there right now. I see more fear attacks taking place, a lot more, especially, again, coming up around the holidays. We saw that last year with one of their little, Christmas villages and the car that was used as a weapon. I see that happen at least 3 times in the coming months. And I see something being done with propane or propane tanks in a vehicle being used again as a weapon. So things are going to get a little rough in Germany. And I feel like it's a long, cold winter that you also need to stock up on foods as much as you can. Will we see any justice truly play out for Charlie? Will his murder bring about the fall of the Christian-Israel alliance? It's actually the Zionists. That's who you got to blame here. It's really not the religions. It's really the Zionists. And I did say that we would see truth come out. And you know how they just blocked all the people that were at that event, 3,000 people, from saying anything? A judge just blocked the hearings from being heard by others. Like, it's shady as can be. We know it's shady as can be. And I see truth prevails, but it'll be a while. It'll be a while. And you notice how the Epstein thing went away real quick? Because that's what they were talking. That's what everybody was talking about on the internet beforehand. Then the Charlie Kirk thing happened. And now people are still talking about Charlie Kirk. And they're not talking about Epstein case anymore. Spirit says, I see spelled out, Epstein case will return. Truth will prevail. But not right away. This may pan out in a few years. As far as the Tyler kid, I feel like he's in great jeopardy. But I also feel like they're giving him some kind of, they're pumping him with something, drugs, maybe psych meds, which he's refusing, but I feel like they're holding him down and injecting him with something. That's shady. So eventually, where we are. Will the globalists freeze offshore bank accounts like the Cayman Islands? Will they freeze offshore bank accounts? I'm not getting anything on that, so I'm going to say no. If there's a freeze of bank accounts, it's going to be all bank accounts as they push us towards the digital currencies. And I see something major happening around that coming up in November. And I see some kind of big sudden rise in cryptocurrencies in November, maybe between the 11th and the 15th. Interesting. I was thinking about getting me some more, but I was waiting for XRP to come down a little bit more. I was even waiting for Bitcoin to come down and throw a little bit more money in there. Because silver dropped, and speaking of that, I might as well just put this out, make this end with this for today. I saw, and there's other questions. I'll get to them on Tuesday's show. So if you're not familiar, join me every Tuesday for Tuesday's tea time, where we have some tea and we talk about world events, how they relate to predictions and prophecy with the energies that are coming in each and every week. So don't miss it. Check it out on Tuesday. And again, if you're new here and you want accurate predictions, prophecy, and truth, be sure to smash that subscribe, the bell and all, so that you get notifications. Always look for me Tuesdays, Wednesdays for some of you, depending on where in the world you may reside. So I talked about silver going down, taking a little bit of a dip, and then rising again. Silver has taken that dip. And today I'm recording this on Sunday, October 26th, and I saw that it went down to $47 this morning. I wish I would have got it earlier this morning. Now it's at 48, but it was at like 52, 53 bucks like a week ago. So I'm going to take it that this is the little dip. Then it's going to rise. And remember what Spirit said years ago when I told you to start buying silver years ago. And if you did, you made a lot of money. Well, if you sold your silver right now, you would make a lot of money. But that's the other thing. There's this whole thing going on online about the refineries. And, people saying not to buy silver. I still feel like silver is great because Spirit, remember, said years ago there'd end up being a shortage on it because of the need for it and all the electronics or what have you. And maybe some of the mines aren't going to be producing as much silver because I feel like the mines aren't producing. I'm not sure why. Some of the bigger mines, they're either purposely slowing down production because remember, it's all manipulated. So I still feel like that, and a rise. And I still see the dollar dwindling downwards. And let's just hold it for that for today. And I don't have my hat on today because I was scrying, and it blocks off the crown chakra. And I want my crown chakra to be open and flowing so that I can bring you accurate, clear, precise visions of predictions and prophecy with the Black Mirror prophecy. And if you enjoyed, be sure to hit that thumbs up, love button. It'll also have other content from other providers that provide predictions and stuff show up on your feed. It also helps the channel. It takes a lot of time and energy to do this, and I appreciate each and every one of you, including my members of the Subscribe Star, link down below. Sign up for the free newsletter down below. That'll be going out soon with all the forecasts, all the information for the astrology and numerology for the month of November, and any content that you may have missed in between. And thank you for all the contributions, the members of the YouTube community, and all the subscribers. I appreciate you all with infinite love and gratitude. Until the next time, friends, remember, be bold, be true, be kind, be you. Let your light shine ever so brightly. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Namaste and much love, friends. Much love.